The next panel is a special one, and I think India would be incomplete without it. As Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, rightly said, women belong in all the places where decisions are being made. And our next session focuses on the power of those decision makers. With us we have today our moderator, Neha Kothari Ranawat, Head Brand Strategy at Brand Capital International. With her on the panel we have Sarika Batra, founder of Founders Media Group and producer Meet the Drapers, Dongju Wang, Head of Corporate Development at Guru Medical, and Anita Rehman, partner at Global Silicon Valley. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, Omi. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Neha Kothari Ranawat, and we're here to talk about the power of women and the role they play in developing the startup community for women in India and around the globe. Joining me today on our panel are three such exemplary women who are decision makers and role models in their respective fields. Please welcome Sarika Batra, founder of Founders Media Group and producer and director of Meet the Drapers. A media producer and entrepreneur, she's passionate about igniting change by spreading big ideas globally. As the producer and director of a groundbreaking Silicon Valley VC pitch show, Meet the Drapers, Sarika has worked with many budding entrepreneurs to help them realize their vision. Thank you, Sarika, for joining in.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited about this.
Great. Joining her is Dongju Wang, Head of Corporate Development at Guru Medical, a seasoned business leader with a decade of successful experience in broad functional roles across corporate development, investor relations, marketing, strategy, venture capital, and entrepreneurship, with a specialty in biopharma and the healthcare industry. Thanks, Dongju, for joining.
Thank you, Neha. It's my great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. And Anita Rehman, partner at Global Silicon Valley, an experienced investor, entrepreneur, and advisor. She is deeply interested in the intersection of technology and business and is passionate about working with exceptional people who turn unique ideas into extraordinary companies. Welcome, Anita.
Thanks so much, Neha. Thank you for having me.
Great. Welcome, ladies, to the Think India conference and to the Power of Women panel. India's startup ecosystem is ranked third in the world and has been witnessing great developments with this. More and more women are getting inspired to chase their entrepreneurial dreams. However, according to the National Sample Survey, only 14% of the women business in India are run by women. The global disparity is evident in a report which tells us that globally, 126 million women have their own businesses. But for India, this number lingers around merely 8 million. Given the size of the country's population, one may expect this number to be far greater. But we can really look at it as glass half empty or glass half full situation, because now India has more women entrepreneurs in the startup space than ever before. Our goal from this panel is to make it inspiring for all the young women watching this session in India and around the globe. Our goal from this panel is to make it inspiring for all the young women watching this session in India and around the globe. With that, Sarika, Our goal from this panel is to make it inspiring for all the young women watching this session in India and around the globe. Sarika, what has the last decade been for women entrepreneurs and leaders who have wanted to venture? What does the future hold, and what have been our key learnings?
So over the past decade, thank you, Neha, for the question. Over the past decade, I've actually seen progression in women's role in entrepreneurship. It's not, obviously it's not where we would like it to be, but there's been such a movement behind it. Now we see more and more VCs in Silicon Valley that are focusing their attention on women, like Jessie Draper, for example. She has a fund just for women. Even on Meet the Drapers on our show, women have primarily won the past 4 seasons. And we see women entrepreneurs popping up all over the place. I do agree in India. We went to India, in fact, in last year, March, for our pitch event for Meet the Drapers. And we put out a casting call, and 90 entrepreneurs showed up on the day of, and there was one woman. And I was very surprised. We need to see more entrepreneurship. So where the future is headed, I think with panels like this and more education and giving women a voice to actually give them the confidence to go out and pursue their dreams. I think there's a lot of fear of what their role should be in that and whether or not men will take them seriously. They do get looked down upon. I remember when I first, in 2009, when I first started pitching my TV show in media, I did have this sense of, oh, is she a real businesswoman or just a TV host? Whereas I felt like if I was a man, I would have had a different reaction. You have to it's getting rid of that fear, giving women confidence to move ahead. But I do think the future is looking bright. There's more and more conversation. We're seeing more entrepreneurs. We're seeing VCs support women. People are aware. I think that's the first step, is awareness.
Thanks, Sarika. And, maybe Anita, if you can add, based on, global Silicon Valley, you come across a lot of women entrepreneurs. What are the unique challenges a woman entrepreneur or a leader faces today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question, Neha. So, I'd say entrepreneurship in itself is extremely challenging, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. But I think particularly for women, there are a few factors that make it more so. And the first thing is what Sarika touched upon a little bit. It's that fear. It's our mindset. Women find it much harder to accept failure or to deal with setbacks. Whereas men have a much easier time brushing off setbacks and they just keep charging forward. They have that mindset that allows them to push forward. There's this really interesting anecdote by a soccer coach at the University of North Carolina, where he coached men's soccer teams and then went on to coach women's soccer teams. And when he coached men's soccer teams, he said that he needed to show them what they did wrong in the game. And every man in that room was pointing to the other guy saying, you were the one that did it wrong, right? Whereas when you teach women, you want to go out and show them what they did right. Because when you show them what they do wrong, all of them are just going to take it on their shoulders and just sit down and be, burdened by the weight of that. But if you show them what they did right, then that just really builds up their confidence. And so we have this mindset where we just need to embrace failure. And then once we're aware of it, it becomes much easier. And once you're older, it's much easier. So I'd love to, share this with the younger women, just to embrace the fact that entrepreneurship is filled with pitfalls. The way you succeed is by pulling yourself up and just keep going from point A to point B to point Z, and so change that mindset and that will really take you a long way. The other couple things that I'd like to touch upon are one, networks are so important in entrepreneurship and they're very heavily male dominated. More women are coming into play now, both as VCs as well as entrepreneurs. But I'd encourage women just to set aside that time. Stop putting your head down and building a perfect product. It's really important to go out and build a relationship, both in the funding community as well as in the entrepreneurial community. And the last thing is, just make sure you have the right support system that can help you balance family and work, because that's critical as you become an entrepreneur or leader.
Thanks so much, Anita. And those were really insightful for all the women who are looking to get inspired and become great entrepreneurs. You have to start somewhere. And you got to start with a spirit of it's not about failure or success. It's about achieving. It's about contentment. It's about fulfillment. To that, Dongju, maybe I'll probably have something very similar to what Anita touched upon.
Yeah.
But how can this be changed to empower women entrepreneurs from across the world? Since you come across companies, APAC, Asia, across, what are your insights in terms of how do we empower women?
Thanks for the question. I mean, I totally agree, what Anita just has actually pointed out in terms of like all those uniqueness. I would say I see something in common. I was on the side of raising funds as investor relations for the startup company and then work for the, public traded company. I mean, I've seen these different dynamics for women professionals. They're struggling with some sort of like lack of resources, access to funding resource, or like they don't have like enough support, system, obviously like network, etc. But again, I mean, I still remember the time when I was in the fundraising, role, and actually in the room, pitching room, rest of, members are male. Like the first time it was really shocking. The discomfort, I can feel that sort of like a discomfort. Like I feel like afraid of saying something wrong. Like this is just freaking me out. And then when you do like again, meet all those, Wall Street capitalists, talking about the company, hear about all those insights of what's going on, excitement of the company. I think you build that sort of like confidence and feel comfortable. It takes time. So at the very beginning, I would say, as a junior professional in the investor field, back to 10 years ago, I would say it was like a really scary moment. But again, it will just take time. You will go through that process. So if you're in that role now, like just take it easy. So feel comfortable, to feel like, I still remember one of the professors actually from my previous, graduate school, he said, when you feel a lot of frustration, a lot of discomfort, that's the best moment you actually learn something new. You cross your comfort zone. So just keep that in mind as a female professional. I mean, I don't realize I'm a female I don't care about that, right? When I work for the job, when the deck sits down, I just got to work down. I show like how I can actually process my work, to rest of team members. So people actually don't like from a investor's, perspective. And now I've been working on, actually, they don't really care about, either female or male, right? If we're talking about the investor deal, etc. like this, so people really care about your work. So build your confidence, not like somebody just, inspire you. Oh, you're going to be confident, right? I mean, the confidence is from the inside of yourself, the inner voice. You're going to, empower that kind of your inner voice, find your strengths, like feel comfortable, to go through this discomfort. So once you get used to it, it's feel, okay, I'm okay with that. And some of them, they might be just strategically let you down, right? It's part of the strategy. Don't let them let you down, right? Just go through this discomfort and feel comfortable, working with people, either they're, male or female, they're professionals. I mean, that's something I actually really want to share with some, early, like junior stage kind of, like picking in the new industry, female, professionals. You just get used to it, right? It will just take certain, period of time. You'll be just fine. But back to your question, like women entrepreneurs all across the world. I mean, I fortunately work with all these entrepreneurs from Canadian company, previous, a capital firm. Actually, that's the time I met Anita, and Chinese entrepreneurs, U.S. entrepreneurs, pretty much like a lot of them, European entrepreneurs. They're like different. Like Korean company, Japanese company, Chinese company, they're so different. Don't think like they're like same from Asian market. They're so different in terms of culture, in terms of how they approach, their business, etc. I would say for female professionals, you want really build your voice, you need to find your passion. If something really strikes you, something you feel like so excited every time, you want to spend more time to dig in, to work it out. So find something that strikes you. I think that's part of what my personal takeaways, I would say. Like I wasn't a professional in healthcare before, but I started my interest just one day when I worked at Stanford as a research assistant, and then joined a startup company, and then pharmaceutical company, medical device company, and digital health company. I mean, just like I naturally love working with healthcare professionals. I value that so much. So I would say,
and it's
the key takeaway is like
it is about
find your
passion.
find your passion.
Correct. Super. Yeah. No, thanks so much, Dongju. And I think it goes into something, Sarika, that you have worked with so many entrepreneurs around the globe, especially with Meet the Drapers. What are some of the benefits to having women in leadership roles?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing I want to say is that getting rid of fear, I don't even know why women have fear to begin with. I don't know where this came from because when we see female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs, there isn't, first of all, they're both great. They're both equally great. And I think, and women shouldn't feel like I'm a woman. You're just a person. You're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur and you're going out there to build something, create something to make change. So you shouldn't differentiate yourself that way. So I almost feel like we should change the conversation a bit around that. But I do see some strengths. First of all, women have a certain emotional intelligence that makes them intuitive leaders, and leading with compassion and empathy. I think that is going to go very far in the leadership world, to the point where men are going to have to develop that skill. We're already seeing that: lead with wisdom, lead with empathy. It comes naturally for women. There used to be a thing that women can multitask, so they get a lot more done. But honestly, I'm a firm believer that you should focus on the task at hand and get that done and then move on to the next one. So I'm not sure, but we can handle a lot, you know. I think in general, the soft skills, the emotional skills, the leading with empathy, the ability to lead a team and intuitively feel what that team needs to motivate them to success, I think is a huge strength that women have to offer.
Oh, thanks, Sarika. And I think, Anita, you talked about it in your first few, when we were discussing about just women entrepreneur. Something which I feel this pandemic has done personally as well. Everybody's lifestyles have almost changed. Your priorities in life have changed. We've seen a lot in the last, 24 months as well. So we have seen, what would you advise aspirational young women on how to have work-life balance?
Yeah, that's a great question, Neha. And there's been so many articles about how the pandemic has disproportionately affected women versus men, right? Because we tend to take on so much more in terms of responsibility and childcare and all of that onto our shoulders. But I'm just going to go back to that one, the piece that Sheryl Sandberg put out in her book many, many years ago. And that is, just build yourself a support system that you can really lean on. And if you have a partner in life, make sure that is going to be, choosing your partner is going to be the single most important decision that you will make in your entire life, because that will change, that will affect how ambitious you can be, that will affect the support you get, that will affect, how much encouragement you get. And you need all of this in spades in your career, whether you're, climbing the corporate ladder or whether you're starting a company. And so, when it comes to choosing a partner, do whatever you have to do to make sure that, this person is going to support your ambitions and your person and, everything that you stand for. And if you're not, then, just make sure that you have a support system that enables you to take some of the load off of you, such that you can build more of a balanced life. Because ultimately what's happening now, we're seeing is that people and women are tending to get more burnt out. And, yesterday or day before was Mental Health Awareness Day. It seems like, women have again been disproportionately affected in terms of mental health and taking care of themselves and their well-being.
Very true. And I think, work-life balance, our productivity, of course, has increased much more because everybody's, working from home. We've been able to balance taking care of your own health, taking care of kids with, nutritious meals instead of just getting frozen meals or, just doing takeouts. I think we've managed fairly well in terms of making a good change. But I think at the same time, to continue this momentum, we need to have a good balance with what I want to achieve in the next 5 years or the long-term goals for us as well. And I have grown up with a lot of role models and mentors. Don't you? What are your thoughts in terms of for women to have, role models, or how should women out there or entrepreneurs, should approach this?
Thank you, Neha, for the question. I actually appreciate that very much. A lot of people actually don't really know my personal grow-up background. I'm a Muslim, grew up in China. which is like very rare to see here. Like you see some, female professionals, but probably people have a lot of, stereotype about, being a Muslim, female, either, from US or wheresoever. The challenger from the community is like a lot of, female Muslim leaders or like professionals that has been, discouraged somehow, to become a leader. I mean, this is a part of the culture, right? I mean, I'm not against the culture whatsoever, but the point here is like, I do have like a role model. Those people, either they're a female or like male, professionals. They've been like inspire me to become the best, like to try your potential, find your potential. So from that perspective, I would say when I look back my, the background, I've been growing, I've been supported by the family for sure. My mom, first one in my life, I mean, she's not like well-educated individual at the time, but again, my mom is like earn the resilient and fight the passion and, try to become the best and support the family. Actually, the very early stage, like this type of role model for me to find my potential. Like my mom always encouraged me, just give it a try, do your best, right? You're not the only child in my family. You don't have to take that much, risk or responsibility at the time. You can just do what you want and just give a try to what you're gonna see. So I think that's part of the culture. If you have that type of culture, then good luck, good for you, right? You have the supportive, family members. They'll be like trying to cultivate you to find your potential. So I think from professional perspective, I would say for female professionals, it's really significant. I appreciate my mentorship or role model that much. Like I constantly actually reach out somebody who's been inspiring from any aspect of like, either from workplace or personal life, pursuer. So I would just, reach them out and say, hey, I'm so, struck by your background, by your story. I just want to learn something. I got any comments from you, like call, email. I mean, I did that like a couple of times. Man, I'm not afraid of that. I just want to learn from the best. So in that case, I would encourage all the female and the professionals, if you really struck by something, you really wanted to become someone, like find someone around you, find all those experts, either they're female leaders or male leaders, surrounded by you, and learn from the best. If you luckily have a mentorship, don't be afraid of just asking them. Reach them out, say, I want to learn something. I get some, tips or any like thoughts or comments shared by all those, experts. So I would say, don't be afraid. And it's really significant for either for professional development or your personal life to find a role model, to find a mentor, which can enlighten you or give you a lot of, life lessons or mistakes or all those, very excitement from their, experience. That's like part of like a precious, treasures, I would say, that you actually could, strike for. So yes, role model is really significant for both.
No, thank you so much, Donju. And I think it touches upon this, going back into, we have a higher emotional, we look at everything very emotionally as a gene. So I think having role models inspires us to be either them or somebody better. And what you just touched upon, right? That in terms of, how everybody has different cultural backgrounds, or entrepreneurs, leaders, women professionals, even when you're studying or, getting into your grad schools, it's important for all of us to look up to somebody and to have a path in life that I want to do something out of my life, and going back into what Anita had mentioned, a work-life balance with having the right partner as well as having the right support system at home. So before we end this panel, and I would love to hear from all of you, and we can start with Sarika. What is your advice for next generation female leaders, and anything else you would like to inspire?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think female leaders, look, if you have it in you, if you feel the need to do something big, you have an idea, you're inspired, I truly believe it's there for a reason. You won't feel the need to do something if you couldn't do it. And I truly, truly believe that. Then our mind starts talking to us and fear starts coming in the way, or our parents or our spouse or our family is, oh, this is impossible. Don't, it's just some pipe dream. And we take that intention or that inspiration that we had and we throw it in the garbage. So don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself. That's my big advice for you. If you feel inspired or you have an amazing idea or you want to do something that's going to change the world, and you want to leave your legacy behind, just do it. The path will open up and you will find your way. I promise. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I promise you'll find your way. Just do it. Don't listen to outside voices. And like Anita said, get your support system in place, find mentors, everything that's been discussed, find mentors, get your support system in place, get your resources in place, tune out outside voices because there's a ton of them, trust me, and just go for it. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Thanks, Sarika. How about you, Anita?
Well, so if you don't mind, I want to touch upon the role model piece as well. We have a role model, Deborah Quazot, who's a general partner of GSV, the Ventures Fund. When I joined GSV, I had this mindset. I spent some time looking for a job in Silicon Valley that really, really has, ageism is a stigma here. And then I came across Deborah, and she started this venture fund in her mid-50s, and she basically shattered every stereotype there was. And now she's built that venture fund into the best in edtech. She's the best edtech investor, and she's in her late 50s. And so, for me, just to see that, it helped me just eliminate so much of that garbage in my head about what I could do and what I couldn't do when I was old and I was young and all of that. So I think it's so important as we become role models to go out there and, just show women that things can be done anytime at any age. And in terms of advice for the younger generations, I read this phenomenal book. I wish I had read it 20 years ago. It's called How Women Rise. And it talks about all of the things that we do wrong. Yeah, it's fantastic, by Sally Helgeson and Marshall Goldsmith. Yeah, it's so great. It talks about, how you need to go out and claim your accomplishments, how you need to not just put your head down and work all the time, build relationships, build allies, don't get stuck in that perfection trap, etc. And it just gives you those great perspectives to go out and just be your best self and be proud of it. So I agree with everything that Sarika said, and then I would recommend that everyone go out and read this book as soon as you can, because it has invaluable advice.
Thank you so much, Anita. Definitely, I'm going to do that. Kamsi, what about you? Last thoughts, advice for
Sure. Anita, thanks for brought up that books. So I actually list out a couple of books I think I'm gonna read through again, because every time when I go through some sort of frustration, darkness, I would say not that serious, situations, but still you're struggling with something, you kind of work it out at the time. I read the book again, I go back to the book, I get inspired again, and regain my courage and strength. So I think those classic books, absolutely, you're gonna have them around you, before your bedtime, or when you have very difficult downside of your life or workplace, go back to the book. You will find something that encourages you for sure. So I want to share a very short story from my personal experience to reach out one of my significant mentors. So when I pivot my career back to venture field, I feel like it's difficult. It's quite difficult. I don't see a lot of female professionals here, and I got a lot of rejections for sure. And for a couple of offers, I talked to one of my mentors actually just by cold email. I was surprised I got a reply. I feel thrilled. I said, okay. So I got a 30 minutes coaching, and I asked about, what I'm gonna do, right? I mean, I really, I've done a lot of works in the industry. I feel like I can, add some sort of a value, to the team, but still you're trying to find your position somehow. Because you all see all those, male, expert, partners in the sector. You want to find a sort of a role model or a coaching session. So one story he shared with me is about, you're going to do something that strikes you most. As I did mention before, find your passion and be humble, learn, be open-minded, learn something new, and do what matters most. If you want to become expert in the vertical industry, do it well. You have to perform your work, leverage everything from your professionalism. So better to become, fortunately, I see a lot of, female professionals from our tech industry, which is really surprising and really inspiring as well. So in that case, my takeaway would say, in your vertical, industry, to become an expert, something, matter for you most, and something you're good, good at in doing it. And the one takeaway I actually learned from that mentor, he said, because he's an Asian person, it's really weird to say this in a partner level from the top tier venture capitalist list. And he said, if you don't see the ceilings, there's no ceiling.
There is no ceiling.
There
There's no
is no
age, there's no ceiling, there's no gender. It's all
Yes. Absolutely. No, thank you so much, all of you. Thank you once again, Sarika, Donju, and Anita, for joining us for the Power of Women panel at the Think India conference. It has been a pleasure, and we look forward and having such more conversations going forward to inspire all the young aspirational women around the globe.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank
you
you
for having
Neha.
me.